The ICJ and Article 19 welcome the opportunity to engage in this discussion. Given that we have not been able to review the current draft report, we must reiterate our previous call of the 24th session to consider the broader context in which this report is going to be delivered. We ask the committee to maintain its focus on the primary objectives of preventing and addressing human rights violations resulting from counter-terrorism measures and promoting and ensuring protection of the human rights of victims of terrorism. This has been the long-standing focus of the Human Rights Council, despite the efforts of a few states to divert its attention away from core human rights concerns. Any report addressing negative effects of terrorism should maintain this focus and consolidate the extensive work done by successive special rapporteurs and other UN and regional entities as collected in a compilation published by ICJ in 2019. The report must not enable the diversion of precious attention and resources to more diffuse questions of impacts of a macroeconomic or similar character, in respect of which a human rights-based approach has little to add in terms of concrete recommendations and guidance to states. ICJ and Article 19 share and endorse the position set out in the recent report of the Special Rapporteur to the Council as they relate to the effects of terrorism. We agree with the Special Rapporteur observation that reflection on the enjoyment of economic, social and cultural rights in the terrorism and counterterrorism arenas has been understated. As the Special Rapporteur has affirmed, however, there is no legal basis to view the state as primary victim of terrorism through the economic costs that may be experienced from acts of terrorism. Two principles should be reinforced. Individuals and peoples are the primary rights holders under human rights law, and states have to carry out the legal obligation prescribed under this body of law. Any confusion or suggestion otherwise may undermine human rights law. We agree with the Special Rapporteur that the lack of precise definition in terrorism and counterterrorism and the blurring of lines between counterterrorism and IHL have had a pernicious effect and will seriously tarnish human rights protection. As highlighted before, we concur that any work on effects of terrorism must be centered on the human rights of victims of terrorism, on the duty under international human rights law of all states to prevent, protect, investigate and redress any human rights abuse. We urge the committee to include a clear recommendation to the Council that the exclusive focus of the Council's work remain on violations in countering terrorism and a human rights-based approach to victims of terrorism. We call on the committee to recommend against the Council entering into more diffuse macroeconomic issues, and we urge you to affirm that the existing and long-standing normative and institutional framework on counterterrorism and human rights is already sufficient to address relevant impacts of terrorism from a human rights perspective. Thank you.